Welcome to the Radical Success Podcast, where we focus on internal transformation to experience external results. I'm your host and coach, Doreen Rainey. Join me each week for insightful messages and powerful interviews to equip you to take bold, courageous, and radical action to live the life you want and deserve. Hello and welcome to our latest episode of the Radical Success Podcast. I am Doreen Rainey, and boy, oh boy, have I got a conversation for you today. I am so excited to be sharing this session with a powerful, smart, savvy coach and business owner who is all about helping you get unstuck, become unstoppable, and living a life of resilience. And before I bring her on, I want to share with you something very special that I have starting. It is our Summer Success Series. It is a 6-week, absolutely free course where we're going to be sharing with you all of the stages of success, how to prepare yourself for your next level, and how to live with more purpose and passion and achieving the biggest goals that you have for yourself. And so if you want to be a part of our Summer Success Series, it's really easy to get in the know. Just go over to DoreenRainey.com and you'll be able to sign up for our series absolutely free. So I look forward to being a part of helping you get to your next level. And now, let me introduce to you the incredible Valorie Burton. Valerie is a best-selling author, speaker, and life coach dedicated to helping people get unstuck and be unstoppable in every area of life. She is the founder of the Coaching and Positive Psychology Institute and has served as a certified personal and executive coach to hundreds of clients in over 40 states and 10 countries. For over 15 years, Valerie's books, speaking engagements, and coaching programs have helped people make major life changes that are exciting and scary at the same time. Be happier, have more fun, even when life seems routine, and conquer emotions that cause procrastination, self-sabotage, doubt, and fear. Valerie is the author of 11 books, including Successful Women Think Differently, What's Really Holding You Back, and Happy Women Live Better, 13 Ways to Trigger Your Happiness Every Day. She has appeared on hundreds of radio and television shows, including The Today Show, Dr. Oz, CNN, and she has also co-hosted 2 national television programs, including The Potter's Touch with T.D. Jakes and Aspiring Women. She has written for Oprah Magazine, Essence, Ebony, Women's Day, and many, many more. So I just want to give a big welcome to the Radical Success Podcast to Valorie Burton. Hello, Valerie.
Hey, Doreen.
I cannot tell you how much I have been looking forward to this conversation. You, Valerie, were my very first coach. And I think back to, oh my gosh, it has to have been 8 or 9 years ago.
No, it was longer than that, Doreen.
Oh my gosh.
Because when we started coaching, I lived in Maryland, and I left Maryland 9 years ago. So I think it was more like 10 or 11 years.
Wow. And so, I always talk about being in this coaching industry way before Facebook ads, way before Twitter, Instagram, and way before coaching became, really sexy and the explosion in the industry. And so can you talk a little bit about why you became a coach and the journey that led you to want to do this work and why it's important to you?
Wow, why I became a coach. Well, I first heard of coaching after self-publishing my first book. And I ended a literary agent who lived where I was at the time, which was Dallas, and another client who, the day I went to see him, It was a Friday, I remember. And that other client was going to be on Oprah the following Monday. And he told me to watch, which sounded pretty exciting. And he said she was a life coach. And I was like, I never have heard of this before. This was in 2000. So I was intrigued, but, I had already started writing. I knew my calling. I had prayed about it for a couple of years. And in 1999, in the summer, I had an epiphany about inspiring women specifically to live more fulfilling lives, and that I would do it through writing and speaking. And so I started doing that, and I didn't know what to call myself. In fact, I had a long, convoluted title I came up with, which was Life Enrichment Specialist. If you find my first book, funny. That's what I am, because I didn't even know what to call myself. And so I remember kind of, okay, what's this coaching thing? Well, do I want to go through training? Like, what is it really? So it was about 2 years before I took the dive, started to become trained, and started actually coaching people. And that was in 2002. And the first time I found myself around a group of coaches as I was being trained, I realized there was a whole community of people like me who wanted to help people live more fulfilling lives, fulfill their potential, really dealing in opportunity as opposed to problems, which, counseling was more about dealing with problems, and that never quite fit. It was interesting, but it never quite felt like that was what I was supposed to do. And so that's how I started in coaching. I was already writing. And as I did that, I was also doing a lot of media at the time, and they wanted to call me something. Which was funny because I didn't even have clients when I first started being called a life coach. And so what I discovered is that it was the one-on-one of what I was already writing and speaking about. And I believe it made me a better writer and a better speaker. And frankly, coaching changed my life. It continues to change my life. The whole philosophy around coaching and personal growth and introspection and asking powerful questions and pausing to really answer them. All of that even led me on to my journey of going back to grad school to study applied positive psychology, which I believe is the perfect underpinning and foundation for coaching. So it's been quite a journey, but just a little at a time. I started with the purpose, wrote the book, discovered coaching, became trained as a coach, went into positive psychology. Each thing just kind of unfolded in its own time.
Yes. And similar to you, I didn't know what to call myself either, having been working in HR and found myself, now that I know what it's called, coaching employees and staff about taking responsibility for their lives and about making choices without playing the victim and playing the blame game. And I too, went on to get coaching training and my master's degree. And I wanted to ask you, because I know that the coaching industry is exploding, and that the number of coaches and the number of people out there who want to help people and support people and help people navigate through life is obviously increasing. And so how important do you think it is to the industry when it comes to training, when it comes to the preparation of being a coach versus just, hey, I'm going to create something to help people and just go that route?
I think it's extremely important because coaching is a discipline just like anything else. So, we expect our financial planners, our personal trainers, our CPAs, our licensed therapists to have training and some accountability about what they're doing. Coaching at this point still isn't a regulated industry, but it could become one at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you are engaging a coach, it's important to ask those questions around your coach's background and training, because it can be very easy, number one, to call something coaching that isn't. People have this misconception that coaching is having someone tell you what to do and just cheering you on. And there is some amount of, obviously, encouragement, but it's not being told what to do. You have your answers. Having that person there that can help you uncover those answers, push through those blocks, destroy them sometimes, because that's what we need at times, and to help you see a bigger picture. It can be very easy in our everyday lives to really make our lives smaller than anything we ever intended for them to be. It can be easy to bury dreams and forget what they were. Sometimes we need someone who stretches us to see who we really are, someone who's in our corner that really hears what our vision is and won't let us forget it. That's a really huge element of coaching, I believe, because most of us know deep down what we really want, but we often don't have the time to focus on it. And it can be very easy in the process of just trying to do things throughout life, the stuff we have to do every day, to forget what we said we're here for. So coach is that person that won't let you forget it.
Right.
They're there to remind you of who you really are and to help you continue moving forward at a regular pace. I think coaching really accelerates your progress because it's that person that's there. It's you carving out the time to work on your life week to week and month to month.
And I love that you use the word discipline, that coaching is something that is beyond someone who can motivate and inspire you and make you feel good and, keep you optimistic. And, I've been a coach for over a decade now, and the core of my personal transformation, my radical success method is, a research-based experienced program for results that really walks people through getting to know themselves. And I agree that anyone out there looking for a coach should really understand the practitioner's methods and what does that look like and how does that allow you, like you said, uncover more of who you are. And I know that in the work that you do, you certify coaches through your CAP program. So we're going to talk a little bit about success in a moment, but can you share about the CAP Institute and what that does for those people who are interested in the coaching process?
Yes, I mentioned that, I went through coach training, and I love of learning is one of my strengths. I just love learning. It's just part of of who I am. And so although I earned a master's degree in journalism in the early 90s, I went back to school, went through a graduate program at the University of Pennsylvania and applied positive psychology. And one of the reasons I wanted to go through it is because I really believe that coaching deserves and needs this research basis of, understanding from a scientific perspective what helps people to be happier, to be more resilient, to fulfill their potential, and to flourish, to really flourish in life, not just overcome problems, but to really, really thrive. And so in doing that, I said, you know what, I want to be a part of making positive psychology a part of coaching. So I launched the CAP Institute, which stands for Coaching and Positive Psychology, in 2009 to do two things. One, to train those who are interested in becoming personal executive coaches. So we do an in-person training, which is a prerequisite for our certification program, which is 6 months, all live, online, webinars where you're teamed up with a cohort. And so we've been doing that now for 8 years. We've trained coaches from every state in the United States and 15 countries, 4 continents, an amazing group of people, typically people who love learning. I'm amazed at how many people we have come to the program who have doctorates and law degrees, medical doctors, but then people who just discover their purpose and may not have any of those credentials, but have the passion and want to be able to put the training with that passion. But the other thing that we do at the CAP Institute is we work with corporations. So, coaching is such a powerful tool for leading people. So being able to train leaders within organizations, how to coach their teams, and also resilience training. So being able to help organizations build a more resilient culture, and there's a set of skills basically that we can all learn to be more resilient. And in the current environment that we're in, so many organizations realize that what they need most is resilience, to be able to build up the psychological capital of their people. And so that's what we help them do. And I just love being able to spread the message and to go deeper with it with training, so that people aren't just hearing, obviously I do a lot of keynote speaking, but that's 45 minutes, an hour, but being able to go in depth in teaching people all of these skills of coaching and resilience and positive psychology is really, really a joy.
Yes. And I love the work that you do at the CAP Institute. And for those of you that's piqued your interest, your ears kind of perked up, we'll have the links to that inside of our show notes so you can access that information. And, you talked about being a writer, and I know you've written several books. And one of my favorites is Successful Women Think Differently. And so what was the driver that prompted you to want to write that book?
So funny you asked that after you asked about CAP. So my capstone project in graduate school at the University of Pennsylvania was called Successful People Think Differently. And I basically gathered up all that I had learned around positive psychology, and I summarized it as, bottom line is, the most successful people think differently. And so when I finished that program, I was pitching book ideas to my publisher and actually a couple of other publishers. And it was so funny because I had these ideas that I just knew were next for me. And one of the publishers said, we really want to publish you, but we don't think those books are it. Do you have anything else? And I have to tell you, Doreen, I was irritated. You've written a lot of books. When you've come up with, here's what I want to do.
Right, exactly.
You don't want to hear, what else do you have? And so I hate to admit it, I didn't feel like writing up another idea or proposal.
Mm-hmm.
So I told my agent, I said, well, I've got this capstone project they can look at.
Right. Here's my paper. Here's the capstone. Here's all the research. Here, have a look at it.
I gave you my ideas, and yeah, here you go. And so they came back and they said, would you consider changing the focus from people to women? This was really significant to me because, as I mentioned to you, when I had my epiphany, I prayed about it. I really felt the Holy Spirit spoke to me in 1999 and said, inspire women. Well, Successful Women Think Differently is my 7th book. The first 6 books never had the word women in them. They were really written to anyone, even though women are my primary audience. So when they came to me and said, would she say women? I was like, yes, that's exactly who I'm talking to. Audience for me. And one of the things that I knew from research and obviously from personal experience and coaching women like you is that we deal with a different set of challenges. And there are ways that women think differently from men. So although the 9 habits in the book really apply to everyone, it's through the lens of who are we as women? Women are obviously we tend to be great collaborators and so forth. There's a lot of really good things that we bring to the table, but we also oftentimes struggle more with issues like confidence. Depression is twice as likely in women. A lot of times when it comes to like the work-life balance, we struggle a lot more because the expectations on women are higher when it comes to what we should be doing personally and what we should be doing for others in our personal lives, which really can be very, very stressful. So I was excited to get to write specifically about how successful women think differently. And so far, I've written 11 books. I'm working on my 12th right now. I'm surrounded by notes on my walls as I talk to you, as I revise that book. But out of all the books, Successful Women Think Differently has been the best-selling. And then I have a follow-up book that's only been out for about a year and a half called Successful Women Speak Differently, which is now my 2nd best-selling book.
Mm-hmm.
And that one is around, how we communicate and the power of communication, which is often a missing piece that people forget about in success, that we think it's talent and effort and those things are important, but oftentimes great communicators succeed at higher levels than people with more talent or who've put forth more effort. So that was my follow-up to Successful Women Think Differently.
And, one of the things or many things I love about the Successful Women Think Differently book is the focus on what's going on the inside. And,
yes.
For the past, 4, 5, 7 years of my business, while I've been doing personal transformation coaching, I've also been working with new and emerging entrepreneurs to grow their business as well. And one of the most frustrating pieces of being a coach is giving out the process and working with people around strategies and marketing and sales, and realizing that this is not a systems process how-to conversation. It's really about an internal conversation that then drives our external results. And
You're exactly right.
the first habit that you talk about is to believe that you can do it. And I first heard Steve Harvey say this, and I don't know if it was original to him, but he said that we don't get what we want, we get what we believe. Yes. And there are so many people, and those of you who are listening, think about what is it that you've been wanting, whether you have wanted it inside your head, or you've written it down on a goal sheet, or you've created vision boards, or you've just been tuned into what you want your career or your business to be, or what you see for your finances and your relationships. And they just continue to be goals. And you're not understanding why, even though you really want it, and maybe you've done a few things to try to make it happen, that it's not producing results. And when you talk about the belief factor, what does that mean to you?
Well, first of all, you hit on so many great points. So when you ask, why this book, what I realize is that you could have two women with similar gifts, similar talents, and maybe even similar goals, and you'll find one who is really excelling while the other is languishing or just doing average. And it's not that, if they have similar backgrounds, similar experience, similar talents, then why are they getting different results? It isn't enough to just say, what did that person do? I just need to know the steps.
Right.
That's not enough. And so when we just see success as a series of steps, we can get very frustrated as to why we aren't succeeding the way we thought we should. Because, hey, it was just these steps. The difference is between these two women is when faced with an obstacle, which is inevitable when you're on the way to a goal.
Yes. No one gets a pass from obstacles and challenges.
Nobody. When you face that obstacle, what do you say to yourself about it? And the obstacle could be a problem, and the obstacle could be an opportunity. If the obstacle, let's look at opportunity, because sometimes big things come up and they can be intimidating. Do you believe that you can overcome that obstacle? Do you believe you deserve to be at the table? Do you believe that even if you don't know all the answers right now, that you could learn them? This is huge. So in that first habit, when I talk about believing you can do it, I talk about the research of Dr. Carol Dweck around fixed versus growth mindset. Many of us have developed a fixed mindset, which simply says that where I am right now is, this is it. This is, my talents are set, my intelligence is set. Whatever I was given is where I am. Well, that works sometimes when you're really, really, really gifted and talented and you have all the resources, right? And you don't have really big goals.
Right, exactly.
Right? But the truth of the matter is we all have room to grow. So a person with a growth mindset says, where I am today is just my starting point. I can develop more talent with effort. I can actually learn things that I did not know before. I can pull in the resources. So they're not intimidated by a problem they don't understand how to resolve. They're not intimidated by an opportunity that feels big that they've never had before, because they really believe that where they are is a starting point and they have all of this room for growth. And so part of being able to believe for more is understanding that you don't have to have all the pieces together today. What you have to be willing to do is to put in the work and the effort to learn what it is that you need to learn, to make the connections that need to be made, to grow your network and your circle so that you can see people that have done it at a bigger level. So all of those things are a part of your belief system. And I got to tell you, this changed my entire perspective because I had a fixed mindset. Anybody who's ever been told over and over again, oh, you're so smart, you're so talented, right? Which we do to kids often.
Right.
Can find when they get to the challenge that they can't figure out, they start to think, well, maybe I'm not so smart. Maybe I'm not so talented. And so they don't want those challenges. They actually back down from really big challenges because they feel like, well, people are going to find out I'm not as great as they thought.
Right. And
so for me, realizing this isn't about being weak. This isn't about, not being good enough, which is a message we often tell ourselves as women. This is about being open, that you don't have to know everything right now. You can learn and you can grow, but you have to be willing to set a big enough vision to challenge you. And you have to get comfortable with being vulnerable and with not knowing, and to feel like that's okay. That's okay. I'm going to learn.
And everything you're saying so resonates with me, even inside of my own practice, because I have in the last, 9 to 12 months, really shifted the conversation around my business that used to be focused on the steps, especially when it came to working with entrepreneurs. How do you market? How do you sell? How do you position and get credibility? And I actually didn't require my entrepreneur coaching clients to go through my personal transformation method. And what I found is exactly what you said, that people are looking for that step process versus what do I believe about who I am? Yeah. And so I have been, which was a catalyst for even starting this podcast, shifting my business conversation and my business focus to really help people explore a deeper, richer, more holistic approach to inner transformation so that it is you are able to believe bigger. You are able to have a bigger vision. And without that, you become stagnant, or you may feel like a little bit of an imposter syndrome when those opportunities do come around. Or you just may find yourself settling, but yet justifying the settling.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. No, this is really where I want it to be.
Right. This isn't so bad.
This relationship's okay. This
right.
At least there, and you just fill in the blank.
Right. And I also think another added piece of that is when we allow other people to dictate what our vision should be. And so maybe things are going okay, but you want more, and other people don't understand that. Well, your job is already good. Why would you want to start a business? Or, he's all right. He pays all the bills. He comes home at night. Why are you rocking the boat? And so being courageous enough and believing enough about who you were created to be and the impact you're supposed to have to move past what people may think or say about the vision that you believe has been imparted in you.
Absolutely. And you have to know for yourself. It's so important to get quiet. You can't seek opinions when it comes to your vision.
Yes.
I believe that's between you and God. Like, what are you here for? Where are you supposed to go in this next season of your life?
Yes. And
just get quiet and listen. And it's okay to share with safe, wise people once you know it. But I even believe while you're in process that oftentimes getting quiet and not letting too many voices speak into what that looks like, and that's really where a great coach can come in too, because someone who's able to ask you the kinds of questions that help you really uncover what you really, really want and why you want it, because the why, the purpose behind it is what's going to drive you. When I got my purpose, inspiring women to live more fulfilling lives, in 1999 doesn't seem like that long ago. It was a long while ago,
Yes.
20 years. And I have to tell you, that at least the first 7 years were very challenging, trying to build up a business in a field that's not like, it's not on the list of top growth fields, right?
Right, exactly.
What do you do? Well, I do motivational speaking, writing books, and I'm coaching. What's coaching? But I knew it was my purpose, and that is huge. You have to know why you're doing the things you're doing, because if there's purpose behind it, you'll persevere through it. That belief that this is what you're meant to be doing is powerful. If you don't have it when things get hard, it's very difficult to stick with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know in the book, you're going through 9 habits, and obviously we don't have enough time to go through them all. And so I want to encourage all of you to make sure you pick up a copy if you don't, and there'll be a link in the show notes for you to do that. But I do want to touch on another habit that you talk about in the book, which is stop trying to fix your weaknesses. About obsessing and really putting more focus and attention on what's wrong with you than what's right. And so how does that hinder the progress that people can make?
Well, I think too many people are walking around with this question repeating over and over in their head, even if they aren't conscious of what's wrong with me, what's wrong with me, look what I did, what's wrong. And so being able to ask a different question can be so powerful. What's right with you?
Mm-hmm.
What's right? Because all of us have strengths. And research shows and just experience shows that when you tap into your strengths and you use your strengths to overcome challenges, you have so much more power, because your strengths are the things that are innate. They're natural to you. It's just what you do, and you probably do it so well that you don't notice everyone else doesn't do it as well. You know, oftentimes when it comes to strengths, everyone else can see it and we're like, what?
Right. What? Well, everybody can do that. We don't think it's special.
Yeah.
We think that because we do it well, it comes easy for us, that it must be easy for everyone else. And therefore it's not really a strength. It's not really a gift.
Yes. And so having that approach in your thinking about how you think about your ability to overcome problems, your ability to take advantage of opportunities. So, for example, if I'm dealing with a challenge, I know that one of my strengths is communication. I don't struggle to communicate, whether I'm writing, whether I'm doing television, whether I'm speaking on a stage, whether I'm having a conversation. I'm comfortable being very direct, which, as you know, is so important with coaching.
Yes.
And everything I've ever done in my career has been communication. I was in marketing. I owned a PR firm. I started writing. I started coaching. All of it's communication. So when I'm having a challenge, and it could be something completely unrelated to communication, I go back to how can I use my strengths? Communication is one of them. I have a strength of sense of purpose and spirituality. My faith is important. I got to tell you, when I feel like I can't figure out the answer,
mm-hmm.
go, what role does faith play here? What message might God be sending? It unlocks everything. But sometimes we forget to tap into those things that we're naturally good at. And we focus on the things that are areas where we struggle, perhaps looking at what others are doing, trying so hard to fix those things, as opposed to saying, how can I build on my strengths? Because that is far more effective. And in fact, one of my favorite pieces of research is around trying to help kids use their strengths to improve their grades. And so it's a really interesting study where they had kids, they had teachers to coach the kids or give them feedback in one of 3 categories. So one group got feedback on how to get better using their strengths, what the teachers knew were strengths for the kids. One group was coached around how to fix some weaknesses that they had, and the other group didn't get any feedback at all. Now, this is the interesting part, because most people assume, obviously, the ones with strengths improve their grades the most, but when we get to the ones that improve the second most, I think this is important. The kids who got feedback on how to fix their weaknesses actually improved more than the kids that got no feedback at all. So most people think, oh, it's the no feedback that improved the second greatest amount. Not the case. And this is really interesting, because there was a little improvement. It was nowhere near what the
Right.
kids were surrounded. There was a little improvement. But not getting any feedback at all leads us to just keep doing the same thing. And in fact, if we're in a workplace or you're talking about a parent-child relationship, there's disengagement because there's kind of the idea that you're not interested in me at all. You're not giving me any feedback. So it's not that we shouldn't ever try to get a little better at something, but it's the incessant focus on our weaknesses that's a problem, because we have the greatest opportunity for growth and for improvement of our lives when we just build on what's already natural for us, what we're already good at, which is our strengths.
Yeah. And what I find interesting is that can be a challenge for some people, because by default, some of us may just go to our weaknesses. Like we wake up thinking what's wrong, what's not working. We wake up in a state of worry and unhappiness. And that has become the habit. Instead of the habit being stop obsessing about what's wrong, the habit has become always starting out with, this isn't working, this is what's wrong. I remember
it's a pessimistic thinking style. It's a pessimistic outlook.
Yes.
And
yes.
Success requires optimism, not blind optimism,
mm-hmm.
but an optimism that not only believes you can do it,
right,
but it's accurate thinking, not positive thinking. So it's when there is an obstacle or you are lacking a skill set or a resource, it's being able to see that there's an obstacle, but having enough optimism to believe that you could work through or around that obstacle. That's so important. So when we're always looking at what the weakness or the problem is, we actually set ourselves up for failure. Right. And so a strengths-based approach to our thinking is really necessary in order to get to our vision, in order to achieve our goals.
Yeah. And, for those listeners out there that are, nodding their head and saying, oh my gosh, I've been so focused on my weaknesses and what doesn't work and what's going wrong. And I want to shift that mindset piece for me, but I don't even know how, because I'm not even sure that it can, one, make a difference, and two, I don't even know if I have any strengths or if I have any, things that are working right. So how do people begin to make the leap? Because yes, they agree that it needs to be done, but they just have no idea what that would look like for them, because this has been their comfort zone for years or even decades.
Well, I have a couple of thoughts. One, I think self-compassion is essential. If you're in a very difficult circumstance right now, you find yourself frustrated because, maybe you've had a goal and you keep procrastinating, or you just have screwed up, right? And it's easy to beat yourself up about it. Sometimes you have to stop and say, you know what, this is hard. Just the fact that I'm frustrated is hard. That maybe your whole circumstance is hard. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to go for it further, but sometimes we don't even acknowledge that what we're going through is difficult. And so having enough self-compassion to do what I talk about this in Successful Women Speak Differently, of looking at your situation and saying, now, if this wasn't me, but it was my best friend, was someone I really love, what would I say to them?
Right.
Because oftentimes we talk to ourselves in a way that we would never talk to people we love. We would never talk to our best friend that way. So if you would encourage your best friend, if you would help her to see her strengths, if you would talk through a solution with her, why won't you do that for yourself?
That is so powerful. The idea that we have more compassion and empathy and love for others who may be in the same situation or circumstance than we actually do for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So self-compassion is huge. But I also think that if you really can't see your strengths, one, I highly recommend the VIA, which is a free character strengths survey. It's you can find it on the University of Pennsylvania website, which is just AuthenticHappiness.com.
Great.
But also, just ask people who know you well. Think of my strengths if you can't see them yourself.
Right.
And then I also think it's important to switch the question sometimes. So if you find yourself, and I'm not going to say if, we all do this sometimes. It's the rare person who doesn't. So next time you find yourself ruminating about a problem, talking about the problem, going on and on about the problem and what you don't want and what you don't like, stop yourself in the heat of the moment and ask this very simple question. What do I want? What do I want? Because it's very easy to talk about what you don't want.
Right.
It's easy to talk about what somebody else did or did not do that you don't like. But that doesn't get you anywhere. What do you want? So you got this problem, you've got this frustration. What do you want? It totally shifts you from a problem focus to a solution focus. It really shifts you to looking at, what direction do I want to take? How can I be more optimistic about this? How can I take charge? And it's really important for us to do that, because that really is about an internal locus of control, right? And those who are most resilient and most successful always look for what they can control, because there are many things we can't control. Mm-hmm. And those things can be frustrating, but there's nothing you can do about them because you don't control them. So the question is, what do you control? What do you want? And then from there, it becomes more obvious, okay, what might be a good next step? Who should I maybe talk to? What conversation is it time to have? What thing do I need to quit doing?
Right.
This is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And so the power of pausing, I mean, what I'm doing here is it's coaching. Exactly. And if nothing else, as a coach and as a writer, my goal is always to help people learn to coach themselves, because we don't always have someone in the heat of the moment to talk to, but we can practice the power of a pause, breathe, stop, and ask yourself the powerful question that will move you one more step towards your vision, one more step in that right direction.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much, Valerie, for having this conversation with me today. I adore you. I love you. You have been a part of my journey from the very beginning. And before I let you go, I wanted you to just share with us what your definition of success is and what your definition of happiness is.
Okay. So Doreen, thank you for having me on. I'm so proud of you and everything that you've done. You're so persistent. And I remember, I think it might have been the first Get Radical conference.
Yes.
Maybe like 2005 or something like that. And to see you have a vision, you've always had a big vision and you've always been very bold. And I'm very proud of you for that. And I know even better things are to come. So it's wonderful to get the chance to do the podcast.
Yes.
So my definition of success, which I talk about in the very beginning of Successful Women Think Differently, is that success is a harmony of purpose, resilience, and joy. You've got to know your purpose. Your purpose answers the question, how is someone's life better when they cross paths with you? Your purpose is your compass. Your purpose anchors you. It helps you make decisions. It helps you to persevere when things get difficult. If you're living a life that has no clear purpose, are you successful? I don't think so. Mm-hmm. We could have all these external, signs of success, but what are we here for? I've coached people at the highest levels of their careers, people whose names everybody knows, who have said things like, I'm still trying to find that purpose.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And so we have to, in order to find true happiness and contentment, we have to know what our purpose is. And so answering that question is very important. How is someone's life better when they cross paths with you? Resilience, which is your ability to constantly bounce back from setbacks. They happen every day. It's the little things like the person that cut you off in traffic, and it's the big things, the devastating things that take longer to bounce back from, but we still have to bounce back and keep going. So Japanese proverb I love that says, fall 7 times, but stand up 8.
Yes.
You might be on the ground right now, being on the ground, having your life look messy, not knowing where you are right now does not mean you're not resilient. It's the getting back up that indicates your resilience. So resilience is key. And then joy, because I don't think that you can be successful if you're not joyful, right? I mean, it's nice to bring in the money and the accolades, the promotions, and have a nice house. Okay. And then what? Do you have joy in your everyday life? Are you doing something for others? Are you a grateful person? Are you a kind person? Are you having fun? I mean, all of these are the things that
yes. And it's funny because in this world that we live in now, where all of the buzzwords are about grinding and hustling and, go, go, go and 24/7 and,
You're making me tired right now, Doreen, just talking about those words.
Yes. Yes. And we sometimes want to say that once I can get there, wherever there is, then I'll, worry about the joy. Then I'll worry about, the purpose and what people would do when they cross my path. I got to get there. I got to get there. When in reality, if you just be there in the joy, being resilient in purpose, that hustle, will become much easier for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And, to your question around happiness and what is it? I think first and foremost, happiness is subjective. Only you can decide how happy you are. And it has nothing to do with what others think, with a checklist of things that, kind of make you look good or whatever. It is knowing that who you are and what you do day to day is what you were created to do. Having a sense of contentment that you're not worried about constantly having more. Now, this doesn't mean you don't have a goal for more, but understanding that more does not necessarily bring happiness. In fact, I think it's really important to learn to be happy while you're waiting for the things that you want, as opposed to buying into this myth that you'll somehow become happy once you get what you want. Because when you get to the goal, yes, you'll have a boost of happiness, which is really more pleasure. It's more the excitement of getting the new thing, the relationship, the job, the car, the whatever you thought you needed to be happy, right? But what happens is we adjust to it. We constantly adapt to our new norms. And so unless you find the joy that comes from being grateful for life, for people, for love, expressing love to people, I mean, just doing those very simple things that we were built to do, unless you do that, no matter how much stuff you get, you're always going to revert back to a sense of discontentment. And so deciding right now, this was huge for me during, after going through divorce and hoping for marriage and family, I had to make a decision that marriage and family were not going to make me happy. And I was not going to hold my happiness hostage to circumstances.
Wow. Oh, that is so powerful. I don't mean to cut you off, but please say that again. Holding your happiness hostage. I've never heard it phrased that way.
Yeah, we hold our breath. Like, I'll be happy when I can make some more money, when I can pay off my debt, when my kids are not, babies that still wake up at night, when my kids get out of the house, when I finish that degree, when I can leave this job, when I can lose weight. I mean, we have all these things that we allow to hold our happiness hostage, and we're just holding our breath until this happens, and then I'll be happy. That's not how it works. We have to make a decision. I'm going to be happy today, right now, because whatever your circumstance right now, you can go through it and be miserable and angry.
Right.
Or you can go through it and find something to be grateful for and find joy in the simple moments.
Yes.
Either way, you're going through it. Either way, there's a process and a journey to get to your vision. So why not be happy while you're on your way?
Yes. And giving yourself permission to be happy in the circumstance, because those around you may not understand. they may say, why are you so happy? This is awful. This is terrible. Your finances, your relationships, your business. And part of that is giving yourself permission to be happy right now.
It's freeing, and it freed me. And I have to say, when I decided to be happy, that's when the love of my life, the person who I was meant to be with, walked in.
He just strolled on in and said, look at this happy woman.
You know what? You're going to laugh about this. You may or may not know, but my book, Successful Women Think Differently, is I'm with my husband. So my husband and I went to middle and high school together in Denver. And we never dated or anything like that. We barely knew each other. But he saw my book in the Atlanta airport.
Oh, wow.
And we connected we were on social media. We were Facebook friends, and he just tagged me and, should I get this book? And our high school friends were like commenting, well, Jeff, I'm sure if you try hard enough, you could be a successful woman too. Like, and we realized that we had both moved to Atlanta, and, we had lunch. It wasn't a date. It was just lunch.
Right.
And, but I really believe, because I had gotten to a place where I just decided, like, if I never get married again, if I don't have kids, what am I going to be, miserable the rest of my life? That's crazy. I mean, that's just crazy.
Right.
I have a great life, great friends, great family. And there's a lot of benefit when you don't have kids. You can travel, you can do whatever the heck you want, right?
Right.
And so I decided to look at all the good stuff, because I had a lot of married friends that seemed like they were kind of jealous of my situation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's all perspective. Happiness is so much about perspective. You'll find people that seem to have everything in the world and can't be happy, and those who seem to have very little and are.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's all in how you think about your circumstances.
Well, I think that is something that every listener can hang their hat on right now, that in this moment, decide to be happy. Thank you so much, Valerie, for being with me today and having this conversation. If people want to connect with you, where can they find you online, on social?
Yeah, they can find me at valerieburton.com, and we've got some really great freebies. One of my favorites that I created recently is a series of guided meditations around a lot of the stuff we've been talking about today. So you can download those right there on the homepage if you go to valerieburton.com. And then on social media, at Valerie Burton on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook is where my biggest following is. Just remember, Valerie is spelled like Valerie, Valorie.
Yes.
Valerie Burton. So I would love to connect with you after you listen to the podcast.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Valerie. If you have gotten any nuggets or ahas, listeners, if you've gotten any big takeaways, please let us know by tagging her on Facebook, tagging me, tweeting us out. We would love to hear from you. Thank you so much, Valerie. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Doreen.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the Radical Success Podcast. We would love to hear from you. Be sure to head over to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Until next time, stay radical.